Square Garden meant to you throughout your career?
Everything. I mean, it's the mecca of basketball here in New York City. Obviously, it's the Big Apple. You know, being here at MSG, playing here. You know, it's so many guys that have walked this court. You know, either from basketball to entertainment to actors and musicians. I mean, everything.
So now we reflect. 1 year after the Luka trade, S.A., where do you think the Lakers are now?
They're not in a good position because they're average. They're not awful and they're not great. They have a great one in him. LeBron is still great. Austin Reeves has elevated his level of play, but durability has been an issue because he's been injured. And if you remember, at the height of Luka Doncic's success as a Dallas Maverick, he had Jalen Brunson as a sidekick. Then he had Kyrie Irving. And now he wishes he had Austin Reeves because if they're on the court together, they can make big things happen. In the 80 games that he's been a Los Angeles Laker, 51 of them have been with LeBron James. They're 32-19 when they play together. Obviously, they won 60% of their games when he's on the court, but that doesn't make you better than OKC, Denver, one would argue Houston, Minnesota, and San Antonio. And so you're basically looking at a Los Angeles Lakers team that's good enough for the play-in, potentially good enough for a first-round playoff berth, but going home thereafter. And that's not what you want to hear when it comes to purple and gold. So that's the situation right now. They could trade a first and a second-round pick. Their mid-tier players ain't drawing much interest. We know this. You need your secondary option on the floor, and Austin Reeves, obviously. You don't want to have to depend on the 41-year-old LeBron James to do it for you. He's already doing more than he should have to do, but you don't want to have to depend on that. So all of those things come into play. And then watching against the Knicks, I think it was emblematic of what we've been complaining about with the Los Angeles Lakers. First of all, against the New York Knicks, you shot 12 for 42 from three-point range. And I'm talking about open threes. And that's how we know it's not coaching, because we see the Los Angeles Lakers getting open shots. They just don't make them. 12 of 42 from three-point range, and that's normal. And let's not get started with them defensively. Defensive efficiency, 25th. Field goal percentage defense, 27th. Field goal percentage three-point shooting, 26th. Blocks per game, 29th. Contested shots per game, 29th. How the hell are you ranking bottom two in contested shots? That means you're nowhere in the vicinity when people are getting shots. How the hell does that happen? It's a lack of effort, and in some cases a lack of talent. So they're middle of the road, which is a disastrous position for them to be in. And I think that's what the issue is right now. You don't want to be middle of the road. You want to be great, or you want to suck. And the Lakers are neither. They're in the middle, and I think that's the problem.
So the one thing about where they are middle of the road, and as you reflect on the trade from last year, if you will, is that trade got them a guy for the future. So I agree with you, S.A. They're middle of the road. There's a bunch of metrics that say their defense is terrible. Yes, they've been pretty good in the clutch time, but they've also been blown out by 20 at like 7 different times. Mm-hmm. So I get you. But the one thing they do have is a guy that you can be confident about moving forward. So If I had to assess the trade, they still have won the trade moving forward because Luka Doncic is, to me, still in his prime and has more prime to go.
Eminem, before Wendy's chimes in, it's not assessing the trade, it's assessing the Lakers 1 year after the trade.
No, that's what I'm saying. You got it.
It's two different things. It's like the trade, clearly they won the trade. Anthony Davis ain't even available.
Yeah.
Clearly they won the trade. It's a great thing. It's just that the Lakers looking at him is like,
Right, yeah, because it's like contender or not, the answer's not. So now we zoom out, and at least they got a guy moving forward.
The reality is that the Lakers' Luka Doncic era will start next year. Okay, because they really haven't taken the steps necessary or that they're able to put the proper pieces around him. This is not a mystery. We saw exactly what the Dallas Mavericks did that created a finals team. They put perimeter defenders around to protect Luka for defense, and they went all out to get big men who could roll to the basket off Luka's of screens and then also defend the rim. They got slapped with a tanking fine because they wanted to make sure that they got a first-round pick that they used on Derek Lively, who was a perfect role big man for him. Then they went out and made aggressive trades at the deadline that finals year to get Daniel Gafford. The Lakers have not done that. They did it briefly when they went out and got Mark Williams, and then they rescinded the trade last year. I mean, if you look at Mark Williams and DeAndre Ayton, Mark Williams has 20 more dunks this year than DeAndre Ayton does. I mean, he's a better role man. So the Lakers are going to have to invest in that lineup around Luka. They haven't invested in the perimeter defenders, and that's because they are paying LeBron James $50 million this year. They're going to have to reallocate their team, and they're in position to do so because this summer they're going to have potentially $100 million in salary cap space, and they're going to go from 1 first-round pick that they can trade to 3. And so then they can re-enter the market with that space, which they can use a number of different ways. And next year, the team that you see deployed on the court with Luka, I think will have a big man who fits that criteria and guys alongside him that will defend. I believe that will include Austin Reeves, not as a defender, but as a shared ball handler. And it could include LeBron James. It's just not going to include him at $50 million if they're going to build around him. So the fact that he extended his contract at age 26 and he's invested in the Lakers long term, that gives them the runway to just do what they can this year and then truly pivot this summer.
Okay. Lakers right now 5-5 in their last 10 games, which I guess would be the definition right now of middle of the road, quite literally.
Away from the trade deadline, and I say that and we laugh, but if I had told you 3 days ago, a year and 3 days ago, that Luka Doncic was about to get traded, you would have laughed as well. Today is the anniversary of this, the trade that will live in infamy forever in NBA circles and beyond. It was today that Luka Doncic was traded for a package that essentially revolved around the always injured Anthony Davis. And the question has arisen, is it the worst trade in NBA history? I don't even think that is a question. Hembo and I did a book in which we did lists of all these things, and what we had listed as previously the worst trade in NBA history had been Charlotte trading away the rights to draft Kobe Bryant to the Lakers, or after drafting Kobe Bryant to the Lakers for Vlade Divac. At that time, Kobe Bryant was a 17-year-old kid coming directly out of high school. Obviously, we've seen how history turns. In this case, Wendy, and I don't want to pile on, but the reality is what it is, and here we are on the anniversary of it. We had very known commodities and a move being made for reasons that will remain a mystery for the rest of my life. And here we are a year later, and about as predictable a result as we can possibly have imagined. What are the right things to say about the way the NBA has been completely reshaped by a trade that was made a year ago today?
Well, Anthony Davis has been put on the trade market less than a year later, and the general manager who made the trade was fired. Luka arriving in LA, I think there's a possibility the Buss family would have sold anyway, but not only has it reshaped the future of the Lakers franchise, give them a player to pivot to out of LeBron James, but it may have affected the ownership of the team and certainly maybe even slightly the value of the team. Luka still has to, have the roster built out around him and sort of deliver on the promise, but he re-signed a contract in LA, committing himself to that franchise, and now the Lakers' entire future is built around Luka Doncic, and the Mavericks' future is built around Cooper Flagg, which he became an arrival in Dallas because Anthony Davis got hurt his first game as a Maverick. So it was a trade that, doesn't need decades of perspective to put this analysis on it.
Monica, you're making exactly the right face. You're making the exact face that this deserves.
I remember, now I don't know if you remember this part, but I remember being like, okay, this actually might not be terrible for Dallas, capital I, capital F, if Anthony Davis is able to stay healthy. And so I do think that night, after we all realized that it was, in fact, a real trade, you did think about the possibility. But God, health is so wealth in sports. And I think the context that Greeny just shared, the fact that Anthony Davis gets hurt almost immediately. Now, obviously, Dallas could not have been in a better position when it comes to acquiring Cooper Flagg, but this will forever be a sports mind-blowing trade.
So the worst trade in sports history is generally considered to be the Boston Red Sox trading Babe Ruth to the Yankees in exchange for the rights to a Broadway musical called No No Nanette. I'm not making that up. That's an actual thing that happened. That's probably still worse than this. Having never seen No No Nanette, I can't speak to it directly, but I can't imagine that anything else has ever been worse than this. Luka Doncic is going to be the centerpiece of the Los Angeles Lakers for over a decade. He is one of the 3 best players in the world, and that's probably not doing him justice. He's going to continue to be that, and the rest of it just sort of sits where it is. It just sort of felt, Windy, on the anniversary, like putting a little punctuation on it. Give me a final thought.
Well, I will tell you this, is that it's totally changed the way all of us who work within the NBA evaluate possibilities of things. When we hear something, we'll say, well, there's no way that can happen, but well, I can't say that anymore because Luka got traded for AD. So I don't know how many championships, if any, Luka will win, and that will ultimately decide history. But it's changed the perspective of NBA business, and that's saying something.
Okay, fair enough. Let me leave that there for the moment. Again, it's not meant to be piling on. It's meant to be pointing out that 1 year later it looks even worse than it did on the morning we woke up last year.
And he has Wemby's number, and that everybody's taken the blueprint on how to guard him. All right, Shump, you buying that? I have his number is crazy.
I mean, this is why we love Dillon Brooks, though.
So much.
Because there has to be a degree of
delusion?
Yeah.
But look at the numbers, though. You can't fight.
I mean,
you
those
can't
numbers
fight.
are-
It's only been one game.
Check it out. I've guarded KD before. KD has had a similar night where it was like he went 8 for like 20-something.
But-
And that's cool and all that.
You
But
don't
I
put-
knew
you
in
ain't
my
gonna
heart.
put that on your jacket. Yeah.
I knew in my heart.
Yeah.
As much as I defended, I had some great possessions defended. I ain't do that.
So are you buying
He
that
missed the
Wemby
shot.
that he got
You
Wemby
tall.
number? Are you buying that?
Hey, Dillon, man, I love it. I love it. Continue to be consistent. I'm never going to tell you to change your game. You do not have Wemby's number.
Okay, there it is. That
You do
one we
not have
won't
his
buy.
number. I can't buy that.
Here's the best part about this, guys. We have like 3 more Dillon Brooks ones in this whole segment. Okay,
That
Boogie.
is so wild.
What we got?
He also said that Luka is the hardest player in the NBA to guard. Are you buying that?
I can see that.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm buying that. I've had the opportunity to play against Luka. Never had to match up an entire game. Couple switches here and there, but even in those switches, it was a nightmare. So an entire game guarding him, I can believe that. So absolutely.
I'm rolling.
Okay.
I'm
That
rolling.
one we're good with?
Especially with him saying that he got Wemby's number and Bron is overrated, and
Oh, we'll get to that.
He's being very specific about how he feel about guys.
He's
So if
picking
he's
him up.
saying that Luka is hard to guard, I gotta take it for face value. I gotta take it for what it's worth.
Okay, you know what? I'm glad you mentioned it, Lou, because yes, Dillon also said that LeBron is the most overrated player in the NBA. Right now, I think that's a very important part to add to that. Right now.
Hey, Dillon, bro.
Overrated
calm
career
down,
like this.
man.
Listen,
Where is he saying this stuff?
he did a stream with Neon.
Okay, he streamed. Got
He
it.
did a stream with Neon. Listen, I'm gonna say this about Dillon Brooks. Did I say something crazy?
No, we just
I'm just blown.
But listen, when it comes to Dillon Brooks, this is chess to me. He has positioned himself. He's seen Kobe has his nemesis guys that they want to battle. Michael Jordan has had his. He said, you know what? I'm gonna be bronze for the next couple years until he go. I'm gonna attach myself to this history right here, and I think that's what we're seeing.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
down to the antics during the game, giving them a high five. Like that would mess with me. If somebody on the other team try to give me a dap at the free throw line, I'm like, bro, like what's going on? What are we doing?
It's awful.
That would bother me. That would get under my skin. And so he's playing a game inside of a game. For whatever
Love it.
reason, he's decided that he want to attach himself to LeBron. I love it for basketball reasons, but to say he's overrated right now, I don't know a lot of 41-year-olds that can go get a dub every night when they play.
Man.
I don't know.
If
And
Bron
still
is
get his head over the rim?
If Bron is overrated, who are we?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Who are we?
Who are you?
It gets the people going.
Yeah, do though.
And Dillon is doing a great job of getting the people going.
Hey, Dillon, I'm one of your biggest fans, but you gotta chill.
No, you
But
don't,
you're right.
Dillon.
You're right though.
Get loud.
Confidence does have to lead to a healthy delusion.
Healthy
So you
delusion.
have some healthy delusion going on. You're having success, Dillon. Right on. Just don't stop missing jump shots, because then your delusion, I swear they'll close the book on it real quick.
I gotta get some Dillon Brooks merch.
I said that.
Gotta
I
get
just
him
want a
here,
shirt.
Yeah, I know.
Get
I
him
gotta, I'm gonna, yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna
need
get on
one.
the old interweb today and see what I can find.
Let me get one.
I got you. Okay, we got one from Wendy. Brian Windhorst said that the Lakers are potentially going to ask LeBron to take a pay cut. No. If he wants to return. I'm just a civilian, but we don't do pay cuts.
Yeah, that's
How are we feeling about that one?
I don't think Bron. I think Bron, if you could make sense of what you're gonna go do, LeBron will take a pay cut. LeBron like winning. He gonna make the money.
So if they,
Don't worry about the money. Bron gonna make the money.
Lou's not looking like he buying it at all.
He gonna go back to
Never
Cleveland.
seen Bron take no pay cut.
Right.
He took the pay cuts in Miami. He took the pay cuts in
he
Miami.
did. They don't talk about it.
That was a baby cut.
It's a
It's
cut.
a cut. I swear to God, it's a cut. You
Even
said
if
it was
it's
cut.
even if it's 10,000 short, it's a cut.
short.
I digress.
How is it possible that we stand just 48 hours away from one of the most decisive trade deadlines in recent Lakers history, and this franchise still appears to be hesitating between pursuing immediate improvements and preserving financial flexibility that may never materialize into tangible championships, especially when we consider that LeBron James is completing his 22nd All-Star season while Luka Doncic celebrates exactly 1 year since his transformative arrival from Dallas, creating a window of opportunity that could close irreversibly if the organization doesn't demonstrate the urgency this historic. Why does a franchise that has always prided itself on making bold moves at crucial moments now seem paralyzed by excessive analysis when players like Andrew Wiggins are available from the Miami Heat, when the Brooklyn Nets offer multiple depth options, and when Giannis Antetokounmpo's very availability creates seismic waves throughout the league that could benefit Los Angeles if they positioned themselves strategically to capitalize on the cascading movements that will inevitably emerge when superstars change franchises? The fundamental question isn't just about which players the Lakers should pursue, but whether they'll have the organizational courage to transform potential into reality before Thursday at 3 p.m. ET marks the end of all improvement possibilities until summer, when circumstances may have changed completely and current opportunities may have evaporated forever like morning mist in the desert heat. If you agree that the Lakers need more aggression before the deadline, don't forget to leave your like on the video to support the content. The game against the Brooklyn Nets represents so much more than simply closing out a road trip that could end with a positive record of 5 wins and 3 losses, functioning as a kind of final examination before the true pressure of the deadline transforms every phone conversation between general managers into a potential opportunity to redefine the franchise's future with the stroke of a pen and the push of a fact machine that feels increasingly antiquated in 2026 but somehow still governed. Billion-dollar basketball decisions. The psychological importance of securing this victory extends far beyond simple numbers in the standings table, serving as a catalyst for positive momentum that could directly influence negotiations over the next 2 days, especially considering that Brooklyn represents exactly the type of trading partner the Lakers should be courting, intensively because of the depth of available talent scattered throughout their roster. Valuable coins dropped carelessly on a sidewalk. The fact that players like Drew Smith, Darren Sharp, and other young assets are potentially available makes this matchup a kind of live showcase where Rob Pelinka can evaluate in real time how these players would adapt to the Lakers system and the specific demands of playing alongside superstars like Luka Doncic and LeBron James. Though one wonders if Pelinka will actually be watching the game or spending those 2 hours on conference calls trying to engineer some mythical 3-team deal that satisfies everyone while somehow costing nothing. The timing of this game, happening just 2 days before the deadline, creates a unique dynamic where any exceptional or disappointing performance could directly influence final evaluations and asking prices and negotiations, making every possession and tactical decision potentially relevant to the franchise's future in ways that would make even the most routine defensive rotation feel loaded with cosmic significance. I believe winning this specific game against Brooklyn could provide exactly the type of organizational confidence the Lakers need to make bolder moves at the deadline, especially if some of the potential targets demonstrate visible chemistry, compatibility during the 48 minutes of basketball. Though history suggests that Lakers decision makers have been known to overthink even the most obvious positive signs into reasons for additional caution and delay. Austin Hayavi's medical situation finally appears to be resolving after 19 consecutive games lost due to a grade 2 calf strain, with JJ Redick expressing cautious optimism about his imminent return against Brooklyn in a timeline that couldn't be more perfect considering the team's immediate needs and the deadline's complexities. Assuming, of course, that the basketball gods haven't decided to play one final cruel joke by having him re-aggravate the injury during pre-game warm-ups while attempting to dunk on an empty basket. The impact of his prolonged absence is clearly reflected in the team's numbers, maintaining a 15-8 record with him on the court compared to 14-10 without him. But these statistics don't completely capture his importance as a secondary offensive facilitator and crucial safety valve when primary plays break down during high-pressure moments that tend to define playoff basketball and organizational legacies. His imminent return forces the organization to completely reevaluate rotations and minute distributions that had stabilized during his absence, particularly for players like Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, and Gabe Vincent, who assumed expanded responsibilities and may now see their roles reduced significantly, creating the kind of internal roster politics that could either motivate everyone to perform better or generate the subtle resentments that poison locker rooms faster than expired milk in Phoenix parking lot. The most intriguing aspect of his eventual return is how it might influence trade decisions over the next days, since having Austin Reeves healthy and available fundamentally changes the team's priority needs and could allow the Lakers to be more selective in their negotiations instead of desperately pursuing any available upgrade like a hungry person grabbing whatever is left in a convenience store at midnight. Reddick's demonstrated caution in not rushing his return, expressed through comments about wanting 100% confidence before clearing him, suggests a long-term approach that recognizes a few extra days of recovery could be worth more than forcing a premature comeback that might result in another injury and additional months lost to the kind of recurring soft tissue problems that have derailed more promising seasons than anyone cares to remember. Thinking about it logically, the timing of his recovery coinciding exactly with the deadline creates a unique opportunity for the Lakers to evaluate their real needs with the complete roster before making any permanent moves that might prove unnecessary if Austin Reeves returns to the production level he demonstrated before the injury. Though, knowing this organization's track record, they'll probably find a way to complicate even this straightforward positive development. The dilemma between Marcus Smart and Jake LaRavia for the 5th starting position when Austin Reeves returns represents much more than a simple tactical decision, encapsulating fundamental questions about the franchise's philosophy regarding young talent development versus reliance on experienced veterans during crucial moments of the season when every game feels like it carries the weight of championship aspirations, and salary cap mathematics in equal measure. Marcus Smart brings exactly the type of intangibles that become amplified during playoffs, with his ability to make defensive plays that don't appear in traditional statistics, but frequently determine the outcome of crucial possessions and, by extension, entire games that define successful seasons, though his tendency to occasionally attempt the kind of low-percentage hero shots that make fans simultaneously appreciate his confidence and question. His shot selection remains a fascinating psychological study in competitive athletics. His experience in high-pressure situations, including deep playoff runs and an NBA Finals appearance, provides a type of in-the-moment leadership that simply cannot be replicated through development or coaching, especially when young players face the physical and mental intensity that characterizes postseason basketball. For the first time, and discover that all their regular season preparation feels like playing checkers, when they suddenly need to master three-dimensional chess. Jake LaRavia, conversely, represents a bet on the future and growth potential that could pay dividends not only this season, but in subsequent years, especially considering he's still developing his game and confidence in his first truly significant professional role. Though the question remains whether the Lakers have the luxury of treating this season as a development opportunity when LeBron James won't be 4 years old forever and championship windows tend to slam shut with the finality of bank vault doors. The fact that LaRavia is young enough to have been a Lakers draft pick this year perfectly illustrates the type of long-term development the organization should be prioritizing, particularly when we consider that Marcus Smart, while valuable, represents a temporary solution while LaRavia could become a fundamental piece for many years, assuming he continues progressing and doesn't hit one of those mysterious development plateaus that derail promising careers for inexplicable reasons. The psychological dynamics of maintaining LaRavia as a starter also sends an important message about the organization's commitment to his development, potentially increasing his confidence and accelerating his learning curve in ways that could benefit the team both now and in the future. Though the cynical observer might note that Lakers fans have heard these development promises before and watched promising young players traded away before reaching their potential, like autumn leaves scattered by an indifferent wind, I believe the correct decision would be keeping Jake LaRavia as a starter while using Marcus Smart as a game closer, allowing both players to contribute in ways that maximize their specific strengths while acknowledging both immediate needs and long-term development considerations that should guide a visionary organization. Though this probably makes too much sense for a front office that seems determined to overthink every decision until all possible benefits disappear like soap bubbles in a hurricane. Andrew Wiggins' growing availability with the Miami Heat represents exactly the type of opportunity that should make Rob Pelinka completely reevaluate his conservative deadline approach, especially considering that Wiggins is experiencing a renaissance season in Miami with averages of 15 points, 5 rebounds and 3 assists while shooting 40% from three-point range and maintaining his reputation as an elite. Versatile defender who can guard multiple positions and make life miserable for opposing. Star players in ways that don't always show up in highlight reels but absolutely matter when games are decided by single possessions in May and June. The fact that multiple reports confirm the Lakers, Milwaukee Bucks, and Golden State Warriors are all interested in Wiggins only increases the urgency of the situation, creating a potential bidding scenario where hesitation could result in Los Angeles losing a significant upgrade to a direct Western Conference competitor, which would represent exactly the type of strategic miscalculation that haunts organizations during those long summer months, when they're forced to explain to fans why they chose theoretical flexibility over practical improvement. Wiggins' salary structure featuring a $30, $2 million player option for 2026 to 27 actually offers interesting flexibility for the Lakers, since they could potentially convince him to opt out if he adapted well to their system and wanted a more favorable long-term contract. Though this assumes the Lakers would be willing to commit to a player for multiple years rather than maintaining their apparent addiction to short-term thinking and financial caution that would make a Depression-era banker look reckless. The historical connections between Wiggins and success on large stages, particularly his instrumental role in the Warriors 2022 championship, where he effectively neutralized Jason Tatum in the finals, demonstrate exactly the type of impact player who could make the difference between an early playoff elimination and a legitimate title run. Assuming, of course, that the Lakers are actually serious about winning championships rather than simply maintaining the appearance of competitiveness while maximizing profit margins. Miami's reported asking price of at least one first-round pick plus some role players who can immediately contribute to their playoff push is entirely reasonable, considering Wiggins' current production and proven track record in championship-level pressure situations. Though, knowing the Lakers' recent negotiation history, they'll probably spend the next 47 hours trying to convince Miami that Dalton Knecht and a second-round pick represents fair value for a proven all-star caliber player in his prime. The most frustrating aspect of the Lakers situation is that they possess exactly the types of assets Miami value, including expiring contracts and young talent, but their reluctance to commit to immediate upgrades could result in watching Wiggins strengthen a rival while they maintain theoretical flexibility that may never materialize into actual improvement, like keeping a lottery ticket in your wallet until it expires rather than risking the disappointment of discovering it wasn't a winner. Thinking about it rationally, the window for acquiring a player of Wiggins' caliber who's having a career year and available from a team willing to deal rarely aligns perfectly with the Lakers' specific needs, making this opportunity one they simply cannot afford to let pass, regardless of their concerns about long-term salary cap implications that feel increasingly irrelevant when measured against the alternative of wasting LeBron James' final elite years and Luka Doncic's early prime on roster. Construction philosophy rather than basketball excellence. The broader context of this deadline is being dominated by the potential availability of Giannis, officially listed as out for the next 4 to 6 weeks due to a calf injury, but whose frustrations with Milwaukee's situation are creating ripple effects throughout the league that could benefit Los Angeles, even if they can't acquire the Greek freak direct, assuming they're smart enough to position themselves as opportunistic beneficiaries rather than passive observers of the chaos unfolding around them like spectators at a particularly dramatic soap opera. The most recent reports indicate that the New York Knicks, Golden State Warriors, Miami Heat, and Minnesota Timberwolves are among the serious suitors for Young, with Miami reportedly preparing an extensive trade package that includes Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Terry Rozier, young players, 2 first-round picks, and 3 pick swaps in what amounts to essentially mortgaging their entire future for one player, which either represents bold championship pursuit or organizational desperation, depending on your philosophical perspective regarding risk management in professional sports. The fact that teams are willing to offer such massive packages for Giannis inevitably creates secondary opportunities for teams like the Lakers, who can capitalize on cascading movements when other organizations dismantle their rosters to pursue the former MVP. Though this requires the kind of strategic thinking and opportunistic aggressiveness that the Lakers haven't consistently demonstrated in recent deadline periods. Brian Windhorse's comments about the Knicks suggesting they believe in this team and aren't showing that aggression to get Giannis right now actually works in favor of teams willing to be more opportunistic during the chaos. Though whether the Lakers fall into that category remains to be seen, given their recent preference for preservation over participation. Giannis' injury timeline also creates an interesting dynamic where teams trading for him would essentially be making a bet on his health and availability for a potential playoff run, adding another layer of complexity that could drive down his trade value despite his obvious talents, which should theoretically create opportunities for creative deal-making by organizations willing to accept some medical risk in exchange for championship-level talent. James Harden's reported availability, with ESPN confirming that the Los Angeles Clippers and 11-time All-Star James Harden are working through whether the sides can find a deal by Thursday's NBA trade deadline. Further illustrates how quickly the landscape can shift when multiple superstars become available simultaneously, creating the kind of domino effect that smart organizations can exploit if they're prepared to act decisively, rather than spend another 48 hours analyzing hypothetical scenarios until all the good players are wearing different uniforms. The Cleveland Cavaliers ramped up conversations with the Clippers about a potential Harden trade that would send Darius Garland to LA demonstrates how these superstar movements create secondary opportunities throughout the league. Though the Lakers' ability to capitalize on such opportunities depends entirely on their willingness to abandon their current strategy of careful observation in favor of calculated aggression. I believe the Lakers would be wise to position themselves as opportunistic beneficiaries of these major moves rather than trying to be primary participants, potentially allowing them to acquire significant upgrades at discounted prices when other teams become desperate to complete their superstar pursuits, though this requires exactly the kind of nimble thinking and decisive action that has been notably absent from their recent deadline approaches. The movements already completed leading up to the deadline provide important context for understanding both market values and the types of deals teams are willing to make during this frenzied period. Particularly the three-team deal that sent Dennis Schrader and Keon Ellis to Cleveland, while Sacramento acquired Deandre Hunter and Chicago received along with future picks in what represents exactly the kind of creative multi-team framework the Lakers should be pursuing with their combination of expiring contracts and young assets. This transaction demonstrates that teams are willing to be creative with complex frameworks when it allows multiple organizations to address specific needs simultaneously. Though it also raises questions about why the Lakers weren't involved in a deal that moved exactly the types of players they supposedly covet, suggesting either a lack of awareness about market opportunities or an unwillingness to pay competitive prices for immediate improvements. The Trae Young trade to Washington earlier this month, where Atlanta received CJ McCollum and Corey Kidd, illustrates how even all-star level players can be moved when teams decide to pivot toward different timeline objectives, which should encourage the Lakers to be more aggressive in pursuing impact players, rather than assuming that quality talent will somehow become more available or less expensive as the deadline approaches, like a reverse auction where prices magically decrease, rather than increase with scarcity. Anthony Davis' situation with Dallas, where he's played only 29 games since joining the Mavericks due to injury, creates another fascinating subplot considering that ESPN reports suggest he could be moved before the February 5th trade deadline. Despite his injury status, proving that even recently acquired superstars can become available if circumstances change rapidly enough to make previous assumptions obsolete, the parallel to Brandon Ingram's trade to Toronto last February shows how teams use the deadline window to build rosters for next season rather than just addressing immediate needs, an approach that could benefit teams like the Lakers, who are thinking strategically about both present opportunities and future flexibility, assuming they're actually capable of thinking beyond the next quarterly earnings report and salary cap projections. Cooper Flock's emergence for Dallas, averaging 8 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 4.1 assists in his rookie season, including a career-high 49 points against Charlotte, demonstrates how trades can have unexpected long-term benefits that extend far beyond the immediate player exchange. Though it also serves as a reminder that sometimes the most important consequences of major moves don't become apparent until months or years later when hindsight provides clarity that was impossible. During the frenzied decision-making of deadline day, the Lakers' reported canvas of teams about trading their 2031 or 2032 first-round pick to acquire multiple lesser firsts shows they recognize the value of having more tradable assets. But this approach assumes that quantity can replace quality when dealing for impact players, which represents exactly the type of mathematical thinking that ignores the reality that basketball games are won by great players rather than large collections of adequate ones. Thinking about these recent major trades, the lessons suggest that the Lakers should be more willing to consolidate assets into impact players rather than trying to spread their resources across multiple smaller upgrades that may not move the needle significantly. In playoff situations where rotations tighten and role players often disappear like shadows at midday, but this would require abandoning their apparent belief that keeping options open is more valuable than actually exercising those options to improve their basketball team. The historic milestone of LeBron James being selected for his 22nd consecutive All-Star Game takes on additional significance when contextualized within the urgency of the current trade deadline, representing both a celebration of unprecedented longevity and a reminder that this championship window may be closing faster than anyone wants to acknowledge, like sand running through an hourglass that someone forgot to flip until the final grains are already falling. Kevin! Pelton's argument that Kawhi Leonard deserved the spot instead highlights the growing disconnect between reputation-based selections and current performance metrics, a reality that should inform how the Lakers approach these next 48 hours of decision-making, since decisions based on past accomplishments rather than present capabilities tend to produce disappointing results. Regardless of how well-intentioned the reasoning might be, the fact that LeBron's selection preserves a historic streak while potentially being more about lifetime achievement than current impact creates an interesting parallel to the Lakers' overall approach to this deadline, where they must balance respect for past success with realistic assessment of present capabilities and future possibilities without getting trapped in the kind of nostalgic thinking that leads to overpaying for declining players or undervaluing emerging opportunities. Simultaneously, Luka Doncic's averages of 33.6 points, 8.8 assists and 8 rebounds in his first full season as a Laker represent exactly the type of superstar production that should be surrounded with complementary talent while he's still in his prime years, rather than treated as a luxury that will somehow remain available indefinitely regardless of how the supporting cast is constructed or maintained. The anniversary of the Doncic trade happening exactly 1 year ago creates perfect timing for reflection on what that move accomplished and what still needs to be done to maximize this partnership between two generational talents. Though such reflection should lead to action rather than additional contemplation about hypothetical scenarios that may never materialize into actual basketball games. The contrast between LeBron's 22nd All-Star selection and Luka leading the league in scoring perfectly encapsulates the unique dynamic of this Lakers roster, where proven championship experience meets elite current performance in a combination that rarely aligns so perfect, making it all the more frustrating that the organization seems more focused on preserving theoretical future flexibility than maximizing this present reality. The fact that both players will represent the Lakers at the upcoming All-Star weekend in Los Angeles adds another layer of symbolic importance to this moment, creating additional pressure for the organization to ensure that the supporting cast around these two stars is optimized for championship pursuit rather than salary cap management, though whether they're capable of recognizing and acting on such pressure remains to be seen. Given their recent track record of choosing caution over boldness, I believe having two All-Stars of this caliber creates both an opportunity and a responsibility that the Lakers cannot waste through overly conservative decisions, particularly when the deadline represents their last chance for meaningful improvement until summer, when circumstances may have changed dramatically and different opportunities may no longer exist. But this assumes they're actually interested in winning championships rather than simply maintaining the appearance of competitiveness while avoiding the financial commitments that championship pursuit typically requires in the modern NBA landscape, where talent is expensive and patience is a luxury that contending teams can't afford. The secondary market of remaining trade targets has become increasingly limited and expensive following recent blockbuster deal, leaving the Lakers with fewer options and potentially higher asking prices for players who might not provide the same immediate impact as the stars who have already changed uniforms, creating exactly the type of scarcity-driven inflation that should motivate quick action, rather than additional deliberation about value optimization in markets that don't respond well to traditional economic theory. Jake Fisher's reporting that the Lakers are among teams preparing interest in Denver's Peyton Watson represents exactly the type of young athletic wing they should be pursuing aggressively, but the 23-year-old averaging 14.4 points, 5.0 rebounds, and shooting 41% from 3 for a contending Nuggets team is unlikely to be available without a significant overpay that conflicts with loss. Angela's stated preference for bargain deals, which raises fundamental questions about whether they're serious about winning now or just going through the motions of appearing competitive while maintaining financial restraint. Broderick Turner's confirmation that Dante DiVincenzo and Najee Marshall remain on their radar means nothing without organizational willingness to offer competitive packages that might actually convince Minnesota and Dallas to part with productive rotation players who are contributing to their own championship pursuits, rather than hoping that other teams will offer charity to a Western Conference rival for reasons that exist only in the imagination of overly optimistic general managers. The most realistic remaining options appear to be Brooklyn. Nets players like Day'Ron Sharpe and potentially Haywood Highsmith when he returns from injury, but even these secondary targets will require the Lakers to offer something of value rather than simply hoping that expiring contracts and future considerations will be sufficient to pry away players that other contending teams might also covet for their own playoff runs. Tim McMahon's observation that big men want to play alongside Luka Doncic because he frequently ensures his teammates feast on the offensive end makes someone like Daniel Gafford from Dallas an ideal target. But Will Miller from the Smoking Cuban described the potential Gafford trade as a nightmare for Dallas, specifically because it would strengthen a direct Western Conference rival, highlighting how the Lakers' competitive position actually works against them in negotiations with teams that have no desire to help improve a potential playoff opponent. New Orleans continued resistance to trading Herb Jones or Trey Murphy III. Despite Brett Siegel reporting that the Pelicans want a minimum of 2 unprotected first-round picks as a starting point, illustrates how the Lakers' limited draft capital severely constrains their ability to compete for the most impactful available players, forcing them into the uncomfortable position of pursuing secondary options while watching primary targets strengthen their competition. Even targets like Michael Porter Jr. from Brooklyn, who is having a borderline all-star season and represents exactly the type of two-way wing the Lakers need, would likely require a package centered around their 2031 first-round pick plus additional assets that Los Angeles seems reluctant to part with unless they receive a guarantee of championship-level improvement in return, creating a circular problem where they won't pay top prices for good players but refuse to settle for lesser alternatives that might actually be obtainable within their self-imposed constraints. Thinking about the remaining options realistically, the Lakers find themselves in the familiar position of wanting premium results while offering discount prices, which works about as well in NBA trade markets as it does in luxury car dealerships or five-star restaurants where quality typically correlates with cost. Regardless of how much buyers wish it were otherwise, the psychological and cultural implications of the Lakers' deadline inactivity extend beyond basketball evaluation into questions of organizational identity and commitment to championship pursuit that has historically defined the franchise's approach to roster construction and competitive positioning. Though recent evidence suggests this identity may be more mythical than actual when examined against the reality of their recent decision-making patterns, JJ Redick's recent comments about the roster having a lot of guys that do a lot of one thing really well, while struggling to find the offensive-defense balance that championship teams require, essentially confirms what outside observers have noted about the Lakers' collection of role players who excel in specific areas but lack the versatility needed to compete against elite teams in playoff settings where weaknesses get exposed and exploited like fault lines in an earthquake. The fact that Los Angeles ranks 26th in three-point percentage, 34.3%, and 24th in defensive rating, 117 for points per 100 possessions, suggests systemic issues that won't be resolved through internal development or minor tweaks. Yet the organization appears content to hope that health and chemistry improvements will somehow address fundamental roster construction flaws that were apparent from the beginning of the season, like cracks in a foundation that everyone pretended not to see until the building started leaning. Multiple league executives have noted privately that the Lakers' reputation for aggressive deadline dealing has been replaced by a more conservative approach that prioritizes long-term flexibility over short-term improvement, potentially affecting their ability to attract quality players who want to join organizations with clear championship commitments rather than teams focused on financial management and theoretical future scenarios that may never materialize into actual basketball success. The contrast between the Lakers' current approach and their historically aggressive pursuit of championship pieces becomes even more stark when considering moves like the Anthony Davis trade, the Russell Westbrook experiment, or even smaller deals like acquiring players at previous deadlines when the organization was willing to sacrifice future assets for immediate help, suggesting either a fundamental shift in organizational philosophy or a concerning lack of confidence in their ability to identify and acquire difference-making talent. Dave McMenamin's reporting that the Lakers have been canvassing teams about trading their 2031 or 2032 first-round pick for multiple lesser picks suggests they're trying to increase their asset flexibility for multiple smaller trades rather than one significant move. But this approach assumes that quantity can replace quality in terms of impact players, which historically has proven less effective than acquiring fewer but more impactful contributors who can provide playoff-level production. When games become more physical and rotations tighten like nooses around the necks of unprepared teams, I believe the most damaging aspect of their current approach isn't just what they're not doing, but the message it sends about their priorities and commitment level, especially to players like Luka Doncic, who signed with Los Angeles expecting an organization that would do everything possible to maximize his championship window rather than one that would prioritize theoretical flexibility over practical improvement when opportunities arise to significantly enhance the roster's championship. Probability through available trades that address known weaknesses and provide immediate competitive advantages that could determine playoff seeding and postseason success in what remains a wide Western Conference where several teams have legitimate championship aspirations and the margin for error continues to shrink. With each passing day as the deadline approaches and opportunities for meaningful improvement become increasingly scarce and expensive, like tickets to a concert that everyone wants to attend but few are willing to pay full price to experience.